The story kicks off with Kim Jin-woo looking completely burnt out as he introduces himself. He drops the lore that, in his past reality, he was just your average everyday game director. That lasted right up until the day he got randomly USK'd into a totally different world called Arsalan, grinding through a ridiculously long and draining journey. But, as time ticked on, our hero bounced back, leveling up to become the boss of the Magic Tower and an immortal Archmage. On top of that, Jin-woo also maxed out his stats, reaching the absolute peak of a transcendental being. However, despite all his try-hard dedication, Arsalan is basically on the verge of collapsing thanks to a nasty glitch called erosion. Because of this, he realizes the only way to save the server is by summoning a bunch of people from modern-day Earth who share his gamer mindset. Right then, the Archmage realizes it's practically impossible to offer decent loot to anyone coming to fight in a world that's about to be totally wiped. Needing to give them a solid reason to risk their game overs, he uses his past life's big brain energy to cook up a foolproof plan. Heavy footsteps start echoing through the area, sounding super epic. A massive crowd of summoned humans marches through this new land, absolutely overflowing with hype. One dude rocking a full Viking aesthetic is totally blown away and says the graphics here are insane. Then he jokes that the view makes him want to grab a drink, and a buddy nearby immediately hands him some craft fruit wine. The only hiccup is that the drink smells like straight-up toxic waste, making the warrior think chugging it would send him straight back to the lobby. Right behind them, another player is just vibing and marveling at the gorgeous scenery, but his duo partner tells him to quit goofing around. Jin-woo's master strategy was actually super easy to grasp and pull off. He literally just pulled people from Earth and gaslit them into believing Arsalan was just a hyper-realistic VR game, showing off individuals wearing VR headsets. He narrates that the players are completely mind-blown by the next-gen graphics. So, the humans go all out battling the mobs threatening the world, totally convinced they're just playing the game's final boss event. At the front line, a blonde swordsman hypes everyone up and tells them to get ready for the raid. A giant black sphere floats in the sky as the main threat pushes onto the battlefield. A colossal ugly-looking mob lets out an ear-piercing roar, trying to jump scare the noobs. The swarm of corrupted monsters violently charges straight at the warriors. The players watch the creatures close the gap, and the tension in the combat zone skyrockets. But instead of rage, quitting, or panicking, one of the guys is radiating pure main character energy in the face of danger. The squad actually starts celebrating the upcoming brawl, joking about making goblin barbecue and stew after the raid. The blonde leader raises his glowing sword to call the shots for the team's push. In a flash, the legion of players rushes in for a head-on clash against the shadowy freaks. The frontline tanks hold their ground, totally unfazed and ready to eat the horde's heavy damage. Bursting with hype, the swordsman sprints ahead, screaming Arsalan's name at the top of his lungs. The system drops a quest alert to wipe out the erosion troops, giving the whole squad major epic vibes. Back on Earth, people keep plugging into their gaming setups to join this massive server-wide battle. The warzone turns into an absolute chaotic mess, with the humans facing down the swarm without a single drop of sweat. At the same time, a giant cross-shaped beam of light drops from the sky, spotlighting the Archmage's lonely silhouette. Jin-woo watches the whole lobby from a distance, keeping a super focused and deep-in-thought vibe. He lets out a heavy sigh, showing just how exhausted he really is. Watching from above, he trash-talks the absolute garbage corruption that has spread over almost everything. The tower boss explains that the planet has been slowly eaten away by this toxic force that's ruining the land. Then he admits it's no exaggeration to say 90% of the map has already been completely totally wrecked. The only thing keeping the few remaining safe zones from getting wiped is the magic barrier he set up himself. The real bummer is that the mana stones powering the shield are running dry, giving them a maximum of 3 years before the firewall crashes. The second the barrier drops, the corruption will flood back in, and the mobs will speedrun wiping out the survivors. He thinks it's insanely ironic that he got SK'd into a world that's basically hitting its server shutdown. A voice calls him Glorious Lord, but Jin-woo asks them to drop the cringe formalities in a world that's about to hit game over. His apprentice, the High Elf Terrace, nods, and he scolds her, reminding her he already warned her about the sketchy risks of wandering this zone. Jin-woo complains that she's already giving him a lecture and asks what's up, finding out he was summoned ASAP. He knows how bad the situation is but admits he's out of cheat codes, and the elf reminds him he's the only one immune to the debuffs. The MC clarifies that the local NPCs can't last long in the corrupted zones, since even the highest level souls take tick damage. Because he's a human imported from a parallel dimension, he's literally the only exception to this brutal rule. Unlike the locals, his soul isn't debuffed by the area, and he can actually absorb the energy to buff his own stats. Still, he wonders what he could even do solo, knowing he'd need a ridiculously massive army to turn the meta around. Tyras asks if she should let everyone know he's going AFK again, and the boss gives the green light without blinking. The apprentice tells him to chill and not go overboard, just because he has the perk to respawn by swapping bodies whenever he wants. Joking around, she says that if he logs out, he'll probably make his next avatar a super attractive E-boy or E-girl. Changing the subject, she begs her boss to take a breather, and he just mutters that he will. Sitting by himself, Jinwoo gets a flashback to his human days when he was grinding at work and chugging coffee nonstop. Since spawning in Arsalan, he built the magic tower and dedicated his entire life to sweating it out against the erosion's power. Looking back on his playthrough, the Archmage realizes he literally hasn't touched grass or taken a real break his entire existence. Staring into the distance, he thinks about how the barrier is going down soon, which means absolute total server wipe. Thinking about that, he decides it's time to pivot and find a new storyline for his future. With total confidence, he says he just wants to drop all his aggro, leave it behind, and finally take a vacation. Out of nowhere, a crazy bright light starts glowing from his chest, leaving him completely shook. Super startled, he notices his energy bar filling up fast and going out of control all around him. A massive pillar of light erupts on the spot, slicing through the area with overwhelming crazy power. The tower boss is absolutely stunned, trying to process what just triggered this massive magic explosion. Right after, he feels a wave of absolute admin level control, realizing his soul finally awakened as a top-tier transcendental entity. Mind blown, he thinks it's wild that he only unlocked this broken tier now, just by chilling out, after spending decades trying and failing. Hyped about his newly patched powers, he holds out his hand to test drive what he can actually do. A giant shadowy vortex rips open space right in front of him, pulling everything in with some heavy gravity mechanics. The system UI pops up, saying this is the Gate of Souls, a direct fast travel point to his soul's home server. Checking the patch notes, Jinwoo realizes he can cast spells through the portal and eventually even mail physical items over time. Without wasting a second, he drops his physical avatar and flies through the gateway as a glowing spirit. The MC speedruns straight to the portal's core in a burst of flashy spiritual energy. After finishing the cross-dimensional loading screen, he opens his eyes to see what map he spawned into. To his absolute shock, the gate pops out right in the sky above a modern Earth city, leaving him totally speechless. Just floating there in his ghost form, he stays quiet, analyzing the new map he just loaded into. Taking in the nostalgic view of Seoul, the Archmage asks himself, completely shook, if 100 years have already passed since he logged off. Spotting that people's smartphones haven't really changed much, he tries to figure out if he time traveled or if the servers just have different tick rates. Not wanting to waste time on the lore, Jinwoo decides to head straight for his old spawn point, his house. Reaching his old neighborhood, the MC just hovers in the middle of the street, checking out the real estate. He quickly notices they built a completely new, weird-looking building right over his old coordinates. Seeing that, he figures the save file of his past life got completely wiped out. Realizing Earth has a pathetically low mana pool, his spirit form knows he needs to find a host body ASAP before he gets auto-deleted. Locked in on this mission, he starts flying at top speed over the busy city streets. Mid-flight, Jinwoo hits the brakes hard when something catches his radar. Looking down at a massive mansion on a hill, he realizes he's picking up some crazy high-level energy from it. Curious about the glitch, the Archmage decides to clip through the house and investigate. As soon as he passes the walls, the MC is seriously spooked by the cutscene playing out inside. He sees a young guy looking completely wrecked, lying in a hospital bed right inside a giant bedroom. Floating next to the bed, Jinwoo checks out the kid's critical HP, not really knowing the backstory. Next to the patient, a doctor is apologizing to a CEO-looking grandpa, saying they tried everything but it's basically game over. Freaking out over the bad news, the grandpa starts bawling, asking why his grandson Jinwoo is logging out and leaving him. The Archmage notices the room is packed with high-tech gear, wondering who this kid with the insane energy pool even is. Right then, he scans the patient's ID and is absolutely floored. It was Lee Jinwoo, the youngest grandson of the world's biggest corporate empire. A total prodigy who got hit with a heavy debuff way too early. Taking a closer look at the avatar, the MC realizes the kid's HP is already at 0 and his soul has disconnected from the server. Apologizing for the intrusion, he justifies that since they share the same username, it's the perfect vessel for him to hijack and heal with his buffs. Moving fast, the tower boss's spirit form merges right into the comatose kid's avatar. Right after they sync up, a massive wave of magic pulses out, instantly restoring the sick body's HP to max. The family is frozen stiff, just staring at the mysterious blue glow coming from the hospital bed. Slowly, the kid's eyes open up, proving the host transfer was 100% successful. While the relatives are still buffering, the MC sits up in bed, totally relieved he pulled it off. Not believing the graphics, the grandpa rushes the bed, screaming his grandson's username. The old man practically tackles the kid in a hug, crying tears of joy, while everyone else hypes up this literal miracle. The whole room is filled with wholesome tears and relief as they realize the youngest family member dodged the permadeath. Super anxious, the grandpa asks if he's taking any damage, and the kid just says the hug is way too tight. After the initial hype dies down, the guy finally gets some solo time in the giant room to chill. He thinks his family is pretty loud, but gets that it's a normal reaction for people who just saw someone beat the respawn timer. Snuggling up with a teddy bear, he admits that vibing in this premium, pay-to-win lifestyle would be pretty sweet. But then reality hits him like a truck when he remembers the Arsalan server is still speeding toward a total wipe. Faced with that, the Archmage tries to max a permanent strat to save the place and destroy the spawner that keeps dropping mobs. Totally locked in, he wonders if using modern Earth meta, like tanks and armored vehicles, would do any DPS against the monsters. He quickly trashes that idea, realizing even explosives are useless if the hidden spawner isn't completely nuked. Seeing no quick speedrun strat for such a messy quest, the kid sighs in exhaustion and decides to just AFK for a minute. To clear his head, he grabs a handheld console that was lying around. Without wasting time, the former game director boots up the device and starts testing the installed apps to kill time. The screen loads up a classic exploration RPG, the exact kind of game he used to critique super harshly in his past life. Having fun in the dark room, he thinks about how this classic trope of gathering a party to save the world honestly slaps. Realizing this, the MC figures it would be top tier if millions of adventurers just spawned into Arsalan to carry the lobby. Seeing an in-game prompt asking if he wants to recruit more party members, the guy smashes the confirm button without a second thought. In that exact second, he pauses his game, eyes wide open, as a massive brain blast idea hits him. Sitting on the edge of the mattress and dropping the console, the guy mutters about the idea of actually summoning Earth's player base. The 200 IQ strat would be using the Gate of Souls to pull in a massive crowd connected through a system they already understand. Flashing a hyped-up smile, he decides to code a system where these people will genuinely think they're just beta testing a new VR game. That way, Earth's gamers would basically act as a flawless, corruption-immune squad to carry Arsalan out of its doom. Super confident, the kid remembers he was a legendary dev in his past life, and now he's also a broken tier mage. To top it off, he's now piloting the avatar of the richest hair in the country, meaning he's got infinite funds and resources to build his studio. Overflowing with determination, Jinwoo decides to use his remaining 3 years to drop the biggest, most ambitious project in gaming history. A little later, the mega-rich family gathers in a massive, boogie dining room for a chill meal. Being a total simp for his grandson, the grandpa tells the kid not to be shy and to just ask for whatever food or flex he wants in life. Catching the perfect opening, the MC announces that he actually has a major project he wants to launch ASAP. Sweeting bullets, the patriarch drops his silverware and begs the kid not to say he wants to go back to a hardcore studying grind. The old man brings up how he almost got unalived by academic stress, but Jinwoo calms everyone down, throwing that idea in the trash. With a chill smile, the guy finally drops the bomb on his family. His biggest dream is to develop a video game. Hearing that wild plot twist, the family is totally stunned, trying to process the family genius wanting to become a game dev. Sweating with tension, the grandpa tries to figure out if he means those loud arcade machines, making the room vibe super heavy. But shattering all expectations, the old man throws up 2 thumbs up and starts happy crying, backing the play 100%. The relatives immediately jump on the hype train, hyping up how awesome it is to finally see the youngest kid into normal Gen Z stuff. Super pumped, The head of the family immediately turns to another relative, asking about that dead game studio their conglomerate owns. The MC is shook when his grandpa literally gifts him the entire studio as a get-well-soon present. Checking out the massive building of his new startup, Jinwoo realizes that taking over a dead company is the absolute best meta for working with zero micromanagement. Super hyped about this new arc, he thanks his family for the carry and swears he'll grind to the max on this project. Meanwhile, back in Arsalan, the tower boss's original avatar is still AFK at the very top of his zone. He notices that his elf apprentice carefully moved his avatar to the throne, making sure it stayed looking majestic and mint condition. Back on Earth, the guy explains he coded a background auto run spell on his new human body so he could dual box both realities. Taking the wheel of his Archmage avatar again, he stands up from his massive throne, ready to start writing the epic lore for his game. Inside the tower's library, the high elf in charge of Arsalan's lore is totally in the zone, grinding out her tasks. She's speed, writing with a quill, logging every single piece of lore in that fantasy universe. Using stealth, the MC pops up right behind her to ask about her writing, jump-scaring the absolute life out of her. With her heart doing backflips, Tia begs her boss to stop griefing people with jump scares, and he just drops a casual, "My bad." Getting back to work, the elf mentions that Arsalan's top lore writer is super booked right now. She explains she's gathering her drafts to build some psychological copium for the NPCs during this crisis. Pulling up a chair, Jinwoo hypes the girl up, saying she really does have a top-tier heart. Then, he asks her to draft a scenario about a random outsider dropping into their world, which makes her ask if this is the setup for a romance fanfic. The Archmage clarifies that this player wouldn't care at all about protecting the server and is just looking for fun, asking how they could bait someone like that into carrying their fights. Analyzing the meta, the writer figures he wants to use a casual player looking for entertainment, suggesting they first need to hit him with a sense of belonging. Super hyped about the prompt, Tia guarantees the best strat is setting up a romance route, followed immediately by a massive disaster event. She cooks up a plot where this casual gamer bumps into his perfect waifu and decides to set his spawn point there. But then, right after, the romance route hits a super tragic bad ending right in front of him. The apprentice is totally girling over her own script, getting insanely hyped as the creative juices flow. Dropping an evil villain laugh, she decides this is the perfect moment to comfort the noob player, point out the boss who did it, and offer a team up. Adding to the strat, Jinwoo thinks it would also be super optimal if an NPC the player looked up to sacrifice themselves to tank a fatal hit for them. Loving the synergy, the boss praises how fast his genius writer cooked up a massive motivation engine fueled by pure loss and revenge. He notes that love and tragedy are the best hooks, turning the revenge plot into absolute premium gamer fuel. With this, the MC realizes that if the humans get hooked on the NPCs and the lore, they'll grind the quests voluntarily without anyone forcing them. To break the overly intense vibe, the guy clears his throat to get the elf's attention, who apologizes for letting her hype levels peak too hard. Calming her down, he assures her it's all good, dropping the bomb that a massive player base is going to read her lore. The Archmage casually adds that the player count could hit tens or hundreds of millions, completely freezing the writer in shock. The apprentice instantly hits a state of pure euphoria, picturing her work going viral, hyping her boss's 200 IQ brain while sensing a masterpiece is brewing. Going full simp mode, she throws herself on the floor, offering her literal freedom for the project, making Jinwoo seriously question her mental stability. Getting back on track, he tells her to draft a closed alpha test with about 3,000 players spawning in the city with zero gear, with the server cap expanding later. Speed typing the notes. Tia thinks the concept is pure fantasy gold and asks if these players are dropping in from a whole different server. Confirming her theory, the boss explains the spawn point will be a village they have to escape to dodge the erosion, telling her to write out the tutorial guide. While the elf is literally losing her mind with hype writing the disaster event, the MC watches, debating if he should just leave her in her crazy zone. Before logging off, he tells the writer to send the doc to his game studio the second she finishes adapting the lore to the map. Walking down the halls, Jinwoo admits he won't be able to hype up his dev team just by dropping some neat lore. His big brain marketing strat is to pitch it as a 100% immersive environment, using next-gen VR tech. But, since the Soulgate bandwidth only allows one player transfer at a time right now, he needs a different early game strat. Processing fast, the kid realizes the optimal play is to render a hyper-realistic gameplay trailer and starts plotting to gather some actors. Using his voice chat spell, he pings one of his mods, who replies instantly. The MC says he's pulling up to the stronghold to request a major favor, and tells the minion to assemble the squad. An epic establishing shot of the main stronghold pops up under the clear sky of the magic server. In the blink of an eye, the tower boss fast travels to the coordinates using a glowing portal. Strutting into the main hall, he walks up to the small squad that was patiently camping his arrival. The Baron in charge of that zone welcomes his VIP boss looking like the ultimate fanboy. Right next to him, an old priest also bows, praying for RNGesus to bless the young lord. Jinwoo praises them for grinding their dailies, but the NPCs insist it's nothing compared to his massive carry. The guild leader of the Knights beats her chest, flexing her pride and swearing she's ready to catch a game over for Arsalan. Scanning the squad's character models, the Archmage thinks the warrior lady is decent, but the two old guys are way too ugly to play the main roles. Flexing his big brain, the boss figures out the exact cheat code to fix this casting issue perfectly. Chilling on his throne, he asks if the Baron dabbles in dark magic, and the old dude nods super humbly. Skipping the lore dump, the MC literally just throws a black cloak at the minion and tells him to equip it. The second he puts it on, the old guy transforms into a nightmare skeleton, begging the devs for mercy while Jinwoo thinks the skin looks perfect. Shifting focus to the commander, the boss drops a loot box of armor for her to check out. Holding the metal pieces, the fighter is super confused by the hitbox design, asking what the point of such weird armor even is. Hyped for the recording, the Lord tells the knight to equip the gear, but she's completely shook by the troll request. Keeping his boss voice, the guy shoves the outfit at her, and she tries to backpedal, visibly cringing at the order. Going full serious and acting dramatic, he guilt trips her, saying she has to wear the cosmetic to save their server. After a minute, the heavy clanking of metal boots starts echoing on the stone floor of the main lobby. The warrior finally steps out rocking a skimpy fantasy armor set, leaving the boss amazed at the final render. Jinwoo hypes up the fit, saying it looks flawless, while she asks, absolutely dying of embarrassment, if this actually has any defense stats. Salty about it, the leader complains about the crazy logic where less clothes equal higher defense, and the guy just gaslights her, saying it's the absolute golden rule of his home server. Evaluating his cast, the MC thinks the party aesthetics are solid, but realizes they're missing a core support role. He pictures a classic escort mission, where the warrior has to protect a squishy target, instantly thinking of recruiting a holy saint. But then he remembers the local saint is a 200-year-old lady and immediately hits delete on that idea. Out of nowhere, a kid's voice echoes down the hall, taunting someone to try and catch him playing tag. A girl with horns sprints by running from a kid in totally goofy fashion, while a maid tries to nerf the chaos. Spotting the boss in the room, the young demon hits the brakes hard. Absolutely terrified, she just griefed the meeting protocol. Taking a deep breath and sweating bullets, she bows and begs for forgiveness for the spam, explaining the orphan kids clipped into the castle without clearance. Staring quietly at the noob like an absolute mastermind, the Archmage realizes he just found his missing party member. Skipping the small talk, the MC points at the horned girl and locks her in to play the saint role, leaving everyone shook. The girl tries to explain she belongs to a class of tempting demons, but the guy thinks that's actually top-tier irony and ignores her, panicking completely. Clapping his hands with pure hype, the boss shows he's absolutely stoked about the weirdo squad he just partied up with. With the stage set, he rallies his new actors to finally hit record on the gameplay trailer. Shortly after, dozens of wizards bow in pure respect as the tower boss logs in. One mage steps up to the group, confirming she gathered all 130 apprentices, just like the quest objective demanded. Looking up, the spellcaster gets a little suspicious when she notices something super weird happening nearby. Totally confused, she asks why the boss's squad is wearing such troll skins, and he casually drops that they're just shooting a cinematic. Holding a glowing magic orb, Jinwoo claims it's a presentation to patch their world's defenses, even though he knows these NPCs wouldn't understand his 200 IQ marketing. Striking an absolute boss pose in his chair, he drops the reveal to the crowd that he finally unlocked 100% of his skill tree. The commander explains he can now open portals to ping other servers, getting majorly hyped up and cheered by the crowd. Projecting a hologram of a modern Earth gamer, He announces he's summoning OP heroes from another dimension who have total immunity to the erosion debuff. Because of this, the Archmage orders everyone to drop their side quests and focus entirely on playing support for these new DPS carries, passing the magic orb to the Mage. He explains the item holds the raw footage of the gameplay cinematic they just shot. Flexing his authority, the MC orders the wizards to absolute saturate the file with VFX, adding background mobs and insane details to make it look like a AAA trailer. Holding the light orb, Jinwoo tells the dev team to compress the video file so it fits into a tiny mana fragment, totally baffling his minions. The crowd starts internally screaming, but the tower boss challenges them, asking if anyone has the guts to say they can't complete the ticket. Reading the room, the MC figures they might be sweating now, but they'll patch it together, since doing the impossible is basically a wizard's job description. Looking at his blue-robed minions, the Archmage realizes they totally remind him of a super famous franchise. The nostalgia of those classic round pocket monsters from his Earth dorm room hits him in 4K. Pointing dead seriously, Jinwoo declares that from now on, they will be called Mage Muns, leaving the dev team completely confused. Then he drops the lore that it's a creature that obeys commands and orders his minions to sweat blood on this project, making the wizards cry, nod in agreement. Meanwhile, back in Seoul, the city traffic is an absolute dumpster fire as usual. A highly polished Shu steps out of a premium ride onto the sidewalk. Back in his human skin, Jinwoo fixes his tie, dripping with confidence in front of his newly acquired game studio HQ. The guy grips his shiny briefcase, relieved the trailer rendered so fast thanks to his magical dev slaves sweating it out. Just then, a guy in a suit rolls up and bows to check if this kid is actually the new CEO of the company. The bulky dude introduces himself super formally as Assistant Kim Hansu, looking extremely hyped to meet him. Shaking hands like a pro, the assistant mentions the big boss assigned him, and it's an honor to join his party, getting a chill reply back, keeping it strictly business. Hansu says the whole team is already camping in the meeting room, and Jinwoo tells him to lead the way. Inside the conference room, production director Han Yong-sun is sweating, nervously tapping the table. The veteran dev is looking at absolutely tragic analytics showing the market crashing, and their studio hitting rock bottom with zero buff in sight. Thinking about the new boss, he remembers the kid is a literal 5-head genius with 5 PhDs while still in his youth. Yong-sun tries to figure out why someone who just dodged a game over would take over a dead server, wondering if he actually has a strat to revive it. Out of nowhere, the assistant kicks the door open and loudly announces the CEO has entered the chat. Jinwoo walks into the room looking flawless, with his new sidekick right behind him. The rich kid looks at the staff with a super chill, overly confident face. The tiny remaining team is completely shook by the duo's random jumpscare entrance. Swallowing hard, the production director reads the heavy room vibe and knows this guy is definitely the main hair. The MC skips the tutorial and introduces himself fast, saying they don't need to waste time on boring formalities. Taking the VIP seat at the table, he steeples his fingers like an absolute boss and orders the meeting to start instantly. Skimming the docs, Jinwoo mentions their last project got cancelled and a massive budget game totally flopped before even launching. Sweeting buckets, Yong-sun apologizes, taking all the aggro, and explains the team rage quit to join a rival studio. The defeated director assumes they're all getting banned and the company is declaring bankruptcy, but gets jump-scared when the CEO says this is actually a massive W. Seeing the room full of question marks, the kid explains that since the save file is already corrupted, it's way easier to start a fresh run. Getting a nervous nod from the squad. Pushing his master plan, Jinwoo tells the team he's got something top-tier to show them. The assistant hands out thick lore Bibles to everyone, with the Project Arsalan logo slapped on the cover. The boss explains it's a pitch for a VR game that covers all the lore and map design, asking for brutal, honest feedback. Reading the doc carefully, one dev praises the world building, while another thinks the medieval aesthetic is weirdly trendy right now. But Yong-sun drops a reality check, saying the game needs a VR headset that nobody even owns and the player backlash will be insane. Flashing a confident smirk, the kid guarantees the hardware will sell out so fast that people will be crying over out of stock screens. Slapping the table with absolute certainty, he makes it clear he is dead serious about this thing breaking the sales charts. Standing up and radiating pure CEO energy, the new boss declares he's going to break the internet with this drop. Claiming you need to see it to believe it, Jinwoo asks for a massive open space, and the veteran dev points them to the motion capture room, calling the whole squad over. The entire team quickly groups up in the giant studio, still kind of buffering from his commands. Out of earshot, the devs whisper about how quirky the new boss is, half suspecting this is some crazy scam. The assistant confirms the squad is in position, and the MC just orders someone to kill the lights. One of the devs hits the switch and plunges the massive room into darkness instantly. With the room pitch black, Jinwoo crouches down and tells everyone to back up and give him some space. Messing with a sketchy cube he placed on the floor, the former tower boss announces the cinematic is starting. Immediately, the item starts glowing with crazy bright blue neon beams. A massive pillar of light shoots up, illuminating the whole studio and leaving the dev team absolutely paralyzed. Pure arcane energy floods the floor, rendering hyper-realistic grass in literal seconds. Completely mind-blown, the production director is internally screaming, wondering what kind of black magic he's looking at with the magic circle and the grass. Right then, a distant roar grabs the veteran dev's attention, making his head snap around in pure shock. The employees point at the ceiling, screaming in terror at the impossible CGI that just spawned in. A colossal red dragon flies over the team, dropping an ear-piercing roar that gives everyone major goosebumps. The squad panics and tries to run, but Sun screams at them to chill out because it's just a hologram. Walking casually through the projection, the boss walks up to his dev, who is still physically shaking, T-posing slightly to show off the epic map. Jinwoo finally introduces his beloved Arslan server to the crew. He explains that this insanely detailed, magical dimension is going to be their main development sandbox. Unable to trust his own eyes, the boomer dev asks if he coded all of this, and Jinwoo just smirks, asking if the graphics look realistic enough, snapping his fingers to get the room's attention. The MC laughs at his team's shocked faces and decides to move on to the lore presentation. Instantly, the lit-up map goes dark to try and jump scare the audience one more time. A creepy, pitch-black eclipse takes over the red sky, completely killing the chill vibes of the zone. Heavy clouds block the view as this massive, spooky astronomical event takes over. The ground shatters violently as a terrifying skeleton hand clips through the floor. Cosplaying as an edgelord villain, the old minion spawns in, dropping an evil laugh and hyping up how dark energy will consume the server. A massive horde of undead mobs starts marching relentlessly toward the dev team. Pointing right at the squad, the boss mob commands his minions to rush the targets with zero mercy. The panic sets back in, and even the lead dev starts wondering if this is actually real life instead of AR. Staying completely unbothered in the chaos, the MC steps in front of the group and tells them to back off. Slicing through the air with broken agility stats, the allied army leader jumps from a high spot, ready to throw down. With a heavy thud, the warrior sticks the superhero landing and absolutely shreds the enemy mobs without breaking a sweat. A massive flash of light bursts through the shadows while a cute voice tells everyone to chill, because the healer has arrived. Pillars of holy light nuke the battlefield, wiping the aggro completely clean. Hovering like a literal goddess, the demon girl drops from the sky, lighting up the zone and promising the light beam will tank for the team. Totally sucked into the lore, the devs start cheering for their waifu saviors who just carried them. Watching his team literally crying tears of hype, the boss smiles, realizing the immersion stats hit the exact benchmark he needed. Keeping a cool aesthetic, Jinwoo thinks to himself that the whole run went exactly as he crafted from day one. Watching from the back, Jinwoo confirms the script is running flawlessly, just like he planned. Hyped about the progress, the CEO decides it's finally time to trigger the ultimate cinematic climax. In the middle of the map, the skeleton baron laughs, seeing his XP farm of fresh victims just got a massive player boost. Instantly, the boss mob commands his zombie swarm to spawn in and eat everyone with zero chill. Right then, the commander pings the demon girl, who replies immediately that her ult is ready. The girl raises her hand, asking the crowd to lend her their energy to craft the Heart of Light. Completely lost in the sauce, the devs throw their hands up, gladly transferring all their mana to the saint. A ridiculous amount of light energy gathers super fast, rendering into a massive, floating glowing sword. Snatching the opportunity, the leader grabs the shiny weapon and pushes in, dropping an intense battle cry. Overflowing with focus, the warrior dedicates this massive AoE attack to the glory of the Arslan server. Swept up in the hype, every single employee in the room echoes the battle cry, simping hard for the fantasy world. Pulling off a sick jump attack, the fighter dive bombs the ground to unleash the final smash. Staring at the glowing nuke, the dark villain takes a step back, totally shook by the DPS. A massive shockwave blinds the whole room as the holy energy smashes into the floor at max power. Failing the parry check, the boss mob gets yeeted across the map by the ridiculous knockback of the light explosion. Down to 1 HP and crawling on the floor, the skeleton begs the erosion boss to spare his save file. But a dark shadow randomly spawns in, crushing the minion and declaring he doesn't need trash tier scrubs in his guild. With one casual swipe, the evil entity deletes the Baron permanently. The commander is shook, watching this new challenger team kill his own partner so ruthlessly. Locking onto the fighter, the hooded edgelord announces that she's next on the chopping block. A terrifying purple aura floods the zone, making the dev team panic and try to sprint for the exit. Completely freaking out, the production director screams, thinking it's an actual game over for all of them. But suddenly, the veteran dev stops yelling, looking confused as he spots a major detail in the environment. The studio lights snap back on, proving the mobs despawned and leaving the staff completely dizzy. In the back of the room, Jinwoo casually pops up, asking everyone to drop a rating on that insane tech demo. Overflowing with confidence, the CEO brags that the presentation wasn't too shabby for an early alpha build. The devs are losing their minds trying to figure out the hardware, while a few literally beg to see the Saint waifu again. Trying to act professional again, the boomer dev apologizes for the screaming, claiming it was his first time using VR. Sweeting, the director asks if dropping next, gen tech like this might leak massive trade secrets from their corporate empire. Shutting that down, the kid laughs and says the internet will think it's fake anyway, since even his own team thought it was capped before the demo. With everyone sold on the pitch, the Archmage asks if the squad is ready to lock in, and the team agrees to ride or die with him. Super hyped, he tells them to trash their old coding habits and focus entirely on the new engine he built using AI generation. The lead dev embraces the massive roadmap, swearing that together they'll speedrun not just the gaming industry, but global pop culture. Raising a fist like a boss, the new CEO invites the squad to make history. Soon after, posts drop on the timeline hyping up that their dead studio is about to drop a game changer. Leaks go viral claiming the absolute banger of the season is a flawless VR title. The hype is so massive that tech journalists are already calling the CEO a gaming messiah, hyping the launch as a literal money glitch you can't miss. On the flip side, the viral buzz triggers the skeptics on Reddit, with tons of users calling cap and saying the bankrupt studio is just running a crypto scam. Chilling solo in his lab, Jinwoo reads the hate comments and doesn't care at all, since he already knew the player base wouldn't believe it on day one. Right then, his desk phone rings, showing an incoming call from his beloved grandpa. Answering with a chill vibe, the MC listens to the old man ask if he's seen the latest toxic threads online. Triggered by the haters, the grandpa threatens to drop the legal team on them to ban the trolls. But the kid rejects the carry, saying hate watching is still free engagement. Grumbling, the old man accepts the strat and quickly pivots to ask how the dev pipeline is going. Super relaxed, the kid reports that the build is running flawlessly, and they already compiled the version 1.0. Suddenly remembering a massive feature, he hypes up that they literally just finished coding the fishing minigame. Asked if he still likes fishing, the grandpa flexes, bragging about how he used to pull absolute sea monsters back in the day. Catching the vibe, the Archmage invites him to a fishing lobby, but the grandpa dodges, complaining his back HP is too low lately. Holding the VR headset, the kid says he's pulling up to the house to show him something god tier. Without lagging, the CEO grabs his loot and fast travels to the family mansion that very night. In the bedroom, the old man inspects the high-tech headset the kid specifically brought for the beta test. Walking his grandpa to the bed, the guy tells him to get comfortable before strapping the hardware to his face. Wearing the headset, the boomer praises the build quality, shocked it actually outclasses the big tech company's gear. Double-checking the setup, Jinwoo asks if he's ready to drop in and gets a hyped-up Kai's. With a light tap on the side, the grandpa boots up the software to start the dive. A massive loading screen of light takes over his vision as his consciousness is basically SK'd through the server gates. After the heavy render, the old man opens his eyes, trying to adjust his brightness settings to the sudden light. Absolutely mind-blown, he checks his own hands, stunned by the insane 4K foliage all around him. The old guy stands up, obsessed with the graphics of the lively forest, actually feeling the breeze mechanics on his skin. Spawning outside, the Magic CEO walks up, welcoming his family member to the epic Arslan server. Shook by the realism, the grandpa asks what map they're on, and the kid says they're literally inside his new game. The MC spawns a mirror, showing that the grandpa's avatar was modeled after his prime 40-year-old self. Holding the mirror with shaky hands, the man is flabbergasted, realizing this insane tech wasn't just his grandson hyping things up. Staring at his prime skin, he almost cries from the hype, realizing his joint debuffs are completely gone. Totally euphoric, the old man demands to know how this genius kid found the dev hours to code a AAA masterpiece like this. To dodge any sus questions about his lore, Jinwoo lies, saying he crafted the whole engine while he was AFK in a coma. To prevent the old man from interrogating him further, the MC grabs his grandpa's hand, telling him to start exploring the open world. A glowing light surrounds the duo in a flash, signaling it's finally time to grind the fishing minigame. They spawn right on the edge of a crystal-clear, gorgeous lake, leaving the old man absolutely stunned by the god-tier skybox. Using his admin commands low-key, the former magic boss spawns a basic fishing rod and hands it to his relative. Holding the item, the grandpa thinks the inventory spawn animation is magic, and the kid promises the UI will be way more streamlined soon. Taking the stance of a pro angler, the man checks the rod, noting the physics engine gave it the perfect weight. Hyped up by his avatar's fresh stamina bar, he casts the bait super hard right into the middle of the blue lake. The bobber hits the water texture, sending out perfect ripple physics right where it landed. Suddenly, a massive mob aggressively bites the hook, triggering a huge splash animation. The grandpa spams his strength stat trying to keep the line tight, completely amazed by the insane pull of the underwater beast. Refusing to take the L, he flexes his arm polygons to absolute maximum power. Yanking the rod back violently, the old man screams with massive confidence, flexing that his DPS is way higher than the fish's. With that crazy pull, the giant fish gets yeeted into the sky, completely shook that it just got outplayed. With zero resistance left, the massive water mob crash lands on the rocks next to them with a heavy sound effect. Jinwoo claps for the W, while the grandpa stares at his own hands, out of breath and stunned by the epic play he just pulled off. Feeling the stamina regen in his youthful avatar, the family boss stays totally quiet, just appreciating his restored HP bar. A long time ago, he had already accepted that the brutal damage of aging was slowly wiping his account. But right now, he celebrates getting to experience this massive strength buff again, admitting he forgot what playing on easy mode felt like. Super hyped about the gameplay, the old man lets out a booming laugh of pure joy while partying up with his grandson. Watching the scene, the CEO thinks this is exactly the kind of gamer he wants to import to defend the magic dimension. Figuring that farming family approval is a massive W, the kid says he's going to take a screenshot of his grandpa with the loot and asks for an emote. The old man loves that the game has a photo mode, steps on the boss mob, and flexes his biceps with max energy. Overflowing with joy, he keeps laughing while squeezing every drop of fun out of his recovered prime time stats. Later on, the duo is chilling hard around a campfire, cooking the fish drop for dinner. The old man scarfs it down, amazed that the game actually simulates taste and even a fullness meter in VR. Suddenly, the heavy sound of footsteps crushing the foliage echoes from the dark woods, totally griefing their chill session. Jinwoo snaps his head around and spots two sketchy NPCs walking up, realizing these character models don't belong in his zone. The grandpa asks if another player joined the lobby, but quickly figures these new guys are just AI mobs. Hearing their random dialogue, the local NPCs think the duo is super sus and decide to forcibly escort them to their boss. Having zero patience to deal with low-level trash, the former tower boss just drops a stun command, freezing the duo instantly. Radiating a terrifying red aura, the kid announces he's in the middle of a VIP quest and tells them to despawn immediately. Absolutely terrified by the server admin, the guys sprint away through the woods like their lives depend on it, crying and begging for mercy. Thinking it was just a glitchy random encounter, the grandpa praises the world design and asks about the game's overall dev roadmap. The kid explains the grind is still long, and the old man vows to drop infinite funding on the project from here on out. Thanking him for the massive investment, the guy says he needs the headset back to push some final hardware patches. Logging back into the real world, the old man grabs his back, complaining about his HP dropping and whining that his debuffed body is failing. Throwing a massive tantrum about his incoming game over, he guilt trips his grandson into letting him keep the console a bit longer. Fast forward a bit, the game's dev cycle goes into hyperdrive thanks to the conglomerate's blank check budget. The dev team masters the new magic engine and builds a ton of quality of life tools to make the player UI super smooth. Meanwhile, the art team finalizes the character models, following the super emotional lore Bible written by the elf apprentice. One of the female devs sighs, totally simping over the 3D render of a gorgeous blonde prince on her monitor. Her coworker hypes it up, saying he's the ultimate top-tier husbando and she can't wait to see his animations in engine. The production director reminds them that everyone will get a chance to see these models up close once they load into the new server. Salty about it, the girls complain that only the admins got beta access, making the boomer dev super awkward. They roast the director for camping in the test room just to play the game, but he sweats and promises he's literally just doing QA testing. Suddenly, the hallway elevator dings, pulling aggro from everyone in the bullpen. Jinwoo walks in looking super chill, dropping a "good afternoon," and the whole squad respectfully greets him back. Stepping to the center, the CEO announces loudly that the hardware officially passed all safety checks. He confirms that mass production is starting ASAP, making the whole dev team pop off and cheer. Taking the mic, the veteran dev reminds the squad about the massive tech expo hosted by their parent company coming up. He then drops the bomb that their indie-sized studio is getting the main stage slot, causing the devs to literally scream with hype. Getting emotional, the boomer recalls all the toxic hate and ratioing the studio and the CEO got from the media lately. Throwing his hands up, he swears all that hate is going to turn into absolute standing ovations when their game breaks the global market. To buff the celebration, the boss promises a premium headset for every employee so they can all log in, causing absolute screaming euphoria. The employees go into pure fanboy mode, hyping up the CEO like he's an actual esports god. Startled by the team's insane pop-off, Jinwoo feels his phone vibrating like crazy in his pocket. Checking his notifications, he sees his grandpa spamming him with urgent texts demanding he open the servers. The MC starts full-on panicking when he reads the last text saying the old man is already driving to the HQ to demand server access. Speed walking down the hall, the boss makes up a fake glitch excuse and tells the team to log off for the day early. A while later, the highly anticipated Tech Expo finally drops, pulling a massive, sweaty crowd to the venue. The convention halls are packed with casuals and journalists, desperate to see the new drops from the biggest tech giants. Walking around, a famous tech reviewer drops a salty comment about the dead studio randomly showing up. The influencer Hot takes that promising flawless VR and delivering trash tech is basically gonna ban the company. Looking at the industry's hardware limits, he thinks there's zero chance this crew out-coded the massive US rivals. Taking a seat in the dark auditorium, the reviewer sets up his camera, swearing to post a brutal teardown video if the game is mid. On the main stage, the host hypes up a super secret VIP guest to reveal the corporation's brand new division. Walking out with massive drip and confidence under the spotlights, the young CEO steps up for the keynote. The crowd starts whispering, totally shook to see the dynasty's legendary genius actually back in the server. Grabbing the mic, the kid cracks a joke that he was just goofing around in VR, claiming he invented anti-gravity and new conductors. Getting serious, he promises tonight's drop isn't about space travel, but it will absolutely shatter their expectations. With a dramatic snap, Jinwoo triggers the room's smart tech, announcing the real cinematic is starting. Instantly, a massive holographic tidal wave floods the crowd, terrifying everyone with the insane 80K water physics. The tech reviewer is mind-blown finding himself submerged in this flawless ocean, screaming to ask if it's a Hollywood CGI trick. Walking casually through the holograms, the presenter drops a poetic lore dump about how humanity conquered the seas. The map changes instantly, loading massive deserts and snowy mountains while he talks about the hardcore grind of colonizing the continents. Standing in a crazy blizzard particle effect, the kid praises the insane guts it took for humans to climb the highest peaks on the server. Hooked by the tech, the reviewer touches the falling snow and completely short-circuits when he realizes he can actually feel the cold debuff on his skin. Keeping the hype train rolling, the speaker talks about unlocking the flight skill tree and the insane grind to launch ships into space and rovers to Mars. Floating in a star-filled skybox, he talks about the dream of conquering the galaxy, salty that human biology is basically a massive hardware limitation. Dropping a sad vibe, the boss asks if everyone spawned into the timeline way too early to see that epic sci-fi playthrough. But then he poses like an absolute Chad, snaps his fingers again, and declares he refused to take the L, so he just built a brand new dimension from scratch. A massive purple lightning strike clips through the roof, nuking the center of the stage and leaving the audience completely paralyzed. The entire room glitches out, loading a pitch-black skybox dominated by a massive, creepy blood moon. The whole crowd gets teleported into a ruined, cursed wasteland, looking around with zero clue how they traveled there. Clutching his camera, the reviewer shakes with fear, asking for their coordinates while in-game mobs casually fly overhead. The crowd hits peak mass hysteria over the horror game aesthetic, screaming in pure panic without understanding the mechanics at all. Milking the chaos, Jinwoo T poses on the catwalk and officially drops the reveal trailer for his masterpiece project. The massive Jumbotron plays an epic trailer, promising a fully immersive sandbox where players can actually be the heroes. Holding up the VR headset, he announces early access drops in 2 weeks, but they're only releasing a super exclusive 2,500 copies. The presentation slide drops the hardware specs, showing that pre-orders just went live on the digital storefront. The internet immediately loses its mind over the drop, with users calling cap that such realistic immersion is actually legit. A huge chunk of the community is super skeptical, guessing the company is just doing a massive crypto pump and dump scheme. Even with all the cancel campaigns and threats of lawsuits, the pre-order stock gets instantly botted and sold out in record time. One kid flexes that he secured his pre-order and promises to drop a deep dive review the second the servers go live. His duo partner starts theory crafting, wondering how hard the meta will shift if this next gen tech is actually real. Totally hyped, the reviewer decides to quit covering boring tech and pivot his whole channel to streaming this new VR game. Fast forward 2 weeks, the map loads into a cozy, aesthetic starter village right in the middle of Arsalan. Watching from a high vantage point, the tower boss drops a confident smirk, knowing his fight head strat is seconds away from popping off. One of his mods pings him that the queue is over and Earth's heroes are finally dropping into the magic server. At the spawn point, a buff NPC throws his arms open, shouting a super loud welcome line to the noobs loading into his tavern. Cutting the cutscene short, the magic boss screams at everyone to freeze their animations. Playing the role of creative director, the elf apprentice complains that the bartender's idle animation is way too stiff and demands more energy. She immediately commands the guy to up his food intake to 6 meals a day, arguing that a tavern owner needs a massive hitbox to look legit. Moving to the next NPC, the writer checks if the blacksmith memorized his dialogue tree and gives him the green light to act. The dwarf pretends to accidentally break a weapon and drops a weak laugh, making the elf order him to sound way more toxic to trigger the human's rage. Kind of confused, the hammer bro asks if a 99% success rate really needed to fail so dramatically. Walking through the test server, the MC praises the girl's sweat, super happy with how tryhard she is. He asks one of the admins about the magic core, double, checking that the server can handle 10,000 player avatars at the same time. Checking the bandwidth limits, the kid realizes farming enough mana crystals will be the biggest bottleneck for future patches. Even knowing he needs to expand the guild, he decides not to rush the leveling and focuses on using the early access players to clear the corrupted zones. Looking at all the NPCs getting in position, the boss thinks all this hype is the ultimate proof of a W in the making. Trying to make the launch absolutely flawless, he asks if there are any bugs left, and the coordinator says they're still missing an actor for the main DPS role. The CEO suggests just using a random high-level guard, but the elf instantly vetoes it, demanding a ridiculously attractive boy to act as the main plot hook. Staring at the scarred veteran NPC guards, the boss realizes real tryhard players look absolutely nothing like K-pop idols. Overflowing with hype for her own script, the writer claims K-pop visuals are mandatory to make the players simp for the world and hate the ugly corruption. Catching on to the apprentice's weird request, the Archmage drops a troll smile, claiming he's got a broken exploit for this exact problem. He immediately summons the High Elf, who struts over looking flawless in her high heels. Whispering his galaxy brain strat, the guy asks her to sculpt a premium custom avatar for him to pilot, making the minion laugh at the sus implications. Super embarrassed by the call out, he fake coughs to hide his panic and orders her to focus entirely on modeling the K-pop aesthetics from the concept art. Flashing a slightly creepy smile, the girl says she already finished rendering the avatar and tells the boss to follow her. The squad walks into a massive, obnoxiously bright and bogey room, packed with artificial bodies scattered everywhere. Creeped out by the horror game vibes of the room, the Lord thinks the place is super cursed, while the writer is absolutely girling over the mannequins. Looking smug as hell, the inventor stares at her art pieces, just waiting for the CEO to drop some compliments. showing off a chibi version with cute animal ears. She admits she modeled that alt skin of the boss, just so it would perfectly fit in her arms. The elf pinches the chibi's soft cheeks, totally obsessed, but the MC instantly ruins her vibe, flat out refusing to ever equip that skin. Salty about the rejection, the creator promises she'd treat the mini boss like royalty. But he claps back saying he'd literally suffocate from her death, grip hugs. Changing the subject, the minion points to a massive mannequin hidden under a red tarp in the middle of the room. She warns the duo to brace for a massive hype drop, making the boss super sus about all this dramatic build-up. Gripping the tarp tight, the high elf declares she finally hit the absolute skill ceiling of character creation. With a dramatic pull, she rips off the red cape, dropping her ultimate masterpiece for the server to see. Instantly, the duo is blinded by a ridiculously bright lens flare shooting off the avatar, forcing them to cover their eyes. The skin has such god-tier graphics that it literally radiates holy energy, looking like the absolute perfect paladin. The lore writer is completely stunned, locked by the visual, simping hard over a design that completely shattered her own concept art. While the girl is praising the W, the creator flexes that she used dragon bones and mana threads, grinding for an entire month straight to build it. Knocking on the armor, the magic boss complains he had to blow a massive chunk of his own gold to pay 12 dwarf smiths for the premium cosmetics. Super confused, he asks how the terrifying dragon boss agreed to drop his own scales without triggering a boss fight. Skipping the patch notes, the leader sits in the gaming chair to test if his soul syncs with the new artificial hardware without lagging. A storm of blue lightning nukes the room the exact second the MC uploads his consciousness into the mannequin. The two girls watch the magic loading screen up close, holding their breath, waiting for the final render to drop. Slowly, the gorgeous paladin's crystal blue eyes snap open, confirming the server transfer was an absolute success. Meanwhile, on Earth, there are only 10 minutes left until the servers officially open for the insanely hyped community. A massive red-headed streamer shows off the VR headset to the thousands of viewers spamming her Twitch chat. Reading chat, she admits she bought the cheapest tier, terrified of getting scammed by the sketchy dev studio. Putting on the gear, the streamer says the hardware looks super next gen and hypes up the feature that puts Twitch chat right in her HUD. The digital clock hits exactly 10, finally unlocking the login screen for the massive queue of sweaty gamers. The UI says the servers are live, and the girl tells chat she's finally connecting to the company's mainframe. Adjusting the comfy headset, she declares it's the moment of truth to see if this is the future of gaming or just a massive L. A little nervous, the influencer clicks the button on the headset to sync with the cloud. Instantly, a blinding blue flash scans the sitting redhead, giving her a massive jump scare from the VX. Her POV is suddenly sucked into a glowing, hyperspace loading tunnel, making the gamer scream in terror. Inside the tower's massive crystal lobby, the summoning ritual starts popping off in every corner of the room. The wizard admin sees the server gates opening and tells his mods to get ready to welcome the first wave of players. Slowly getting her bearings, the girl rubs her eyes, feeling a little motion sick from the crazy fast travel animation. Floating barefoot in a dark room full of stars and constellations, she looks around trying to figure out what map she's on. Shaking with hype, the redhead tells chat that she actually spawned into a flawless VR space, making the viewers go absolutely wild. Totally obsessed with the UI, she starts clicking through the floating character creator menu to build her avatar. The screen displays epic warrior classes, showing you can roll a human, elf, dwarf, or even an orc. Without hesitating, the influencer picks the elf race because it's the ultimate K-pop visual, taking the chance to slide the cleavage slider up a bit. The second she hits confirm, her character drops right onto the green grass of the tutorial zone. Buzzing with joy in her fresh skin, the gorgeous elf hits a spin emote and tells chat to clip her flawless design. Reading the chat go feral over her buffed proportions, the girl ignores the trolls and wonders if this insane map is actually Arsalan. Absolutely mind blown by the realistic physics, she screams with hype, promising chat that the full dive VR is 100% legit. But the hype train slows down when she realizes she's kind of lost, trying to figure out where the first quest marker is. Suddenly, an NPC tells her the beginner village meeting spot is right over there, and the elf turns around, thanking him instantly. The second she locks eyes with the mysterious guy, the streamer loses all her words. Totally stunned, locked by his character model, dripping with pure riz, the blonde prince introduces himself as Leon and offers to be her guide if she's lost in the starter zone. Nearby, a generic town guard hits them with scripted dialogue, demanding the girl drop her username. Hitting a cute pose for the stream, the girl decides to stick to her main handle, officially registering as Yahello. The UI flashes a shiny confirm notification, getting the streamer super hyped that her tag is finally locked into the server. The guard repeats a default voice line asking if she's a born adventurer, and the redhead instantly realizes he's just a basic background NPC. Trying to interact, the elf asks if the guard has any quests to drop, and he gives a super generic response praising her courage. Sticking to his script, the guard points to a massive building in the distance and tells the noob to report to the Adventurer Guild Hall. Seeing chat crying and spamming, "Where did the hot guy go?" Yahello finally remembers the gorgeous soldier. Jogging her memory, she realizes the blonde guy despawned the second they entered the village, figuring he must be a major story NPC. Watching the swarm of other noobs flood the village, the gamer copes that she'll definitely bump into the handsome NPC again once she grinds the main questline. Spectating the map from above with his admin cam, Jinwoo is hyped about the overwhelmingly positive reviews and knows his writer will love the stats. With his eyes glowing blue, the fortress boss activates his scanning tool to check if any noobs rolled god tier stats. The MC sees that unique perks are generated by spiritual energy, based on what these gamers went through IRL. Checking the nameplates floating over the players running down the road, he sighs, realizing most of them have absolute garbage-based stats. But right in the middle of the normies, a weird stat block catches the Lord's eye, making him zoom in instantly. Scanning the redhead elf's stats from afar, the boss is shook to see she unlocked a top-tier perk right in the tutorial. The kid quickly figures out that her years of farming engagement online basically maxed out her charisma and aggro, pulling stats to a broken degree. Seeing how OP that social skill could be, he hopes the noob levels it up and ends up shot, calling the raids to clear the map. Hitting the waypoint, the beautiful elf stops right in front of the massive building flagged as the Adventurer Guild. Peeking her head through the door, the girl nervously checks the room to make sure this is actually the right quest hub. As soon as she walks into the massive, shiny, hyper-detailed room, the redhead drops a huge sigh, blown away by the god-tier ray tracing. Right then, a super cute and cheerful voice grabs the gamer's attention, making her fall in love with the cozy vibe of the building. The NPC running the welcome desk is literally the lore writer Tia, wearing an adorable outfit and overflowing with charm. Completely simping for the cute receptionist, the gamer blushes hard, while Twitch chat goes feral demanding the NPC's attention. The chat overlay turns into an absolute spam fest, with viewers pledging their lives to the elf and calling her a literal angel. Speedrunning the dialogue, Yahello signs the guild contract with an old-school feather pen, officially locking her username into the roster. Tia hands over the beginner loot and points to the armory, telling her she can pick out her starter weapon there. Being super wholesome, the receptionist gives the girl head pats, making the streamer completely melt while chat dies of pure jealousy. Watching this wholesome interaction from the top of a tower, Jinwoo keeps spectating his flawless VR simulation. Super proud of his dev work, the boss admits the gamer is pretty cute, which weirdly makes him really want to troll her. Picturing his apprentice crying later, he realizes the writer has zero clue how toxic interacting with real gamers actually is. And like a cursed omen, a massive bare foot stumps the wooden floor, totally shattering the chill vibes. A super buff, weirdo player wearing literal underwear bursts into the room screaming, spamming the chat for food and beer. Faced with this gross, totally unhinged troll, the sweet receptionist is stunned, locked by pure horror. Instantly, more sweaty players with troll skins and zero clothes bunny hop into the room screaming, turning the hub into a total zoo. The chaos spreads, and Tia starts having a hysterical meltdown, screaming while the noobs spam glitchy emotes all over the room. Making it worse, the mob figures out the game drops a rare achievement if you manage to break the receptionist's AI, fueling their toxic trolling. Unable to dodge the army of weirdos, the poor writer ends up curled in the corner crying her eyes out, holding a massive L. Watching his mods suffer from afar, the CEO holds back a laugh, knowing the humans are gonna cry in ocean once the real difficulty spikes. Snapping instantly, Tia puts on a terrifying serial killer face, swearing she'll tank their childish trolling just to watch them wipe in the endgame. While the VR game goes totally viral, the IRL news cycle won't stop talking about Arsalan's insane success, completely shifting the tech meta. Market analysts and content creators who previously trashed the dead studio are now dropping massive apology videos for taking the L. The The launch is so massive that foreign news networks are interrupting broadcasts to talk about this insane tech jump. Tech billionaires and world leaders realize instantly that if they don't adapt to this VR ecosystem, they're going to get permanently left behind. Just 7 days after the game broke the internet, Jinwoo struts into his corporate HQ looking flawless while the staff drops respectful good mornings. One of his devs walks up smiling and asks if the CEO noticed the massive line of delivery trucks parked outside the studio. Dropping a chill smile, the boss notes that another ridiculous amount of hardware just got delivered this morning. The office is buzzing, with devs gossiping that they had to put their phones on airplane mode to dodge people begging for a game key. Pivoting back to business, the veteran dev announces the second wave of early access is about to drop, injecting 50,000 more copies into the market. Hearing that number, Jinwoo puts on his serious CEO face, calculating that this army is the exact player count he needs to start raiding the corrupted zones. Hyped about the roadmap, the lead dev suggests they speedrun the main questline and asks if the super hyped K-pop night is finally going to drop. Riding the hype, another employee proudly shows off merch designs based on the handsome prince, planning to sell them to the massive simp army. Back in the Magic server, the Archmage checks out Leon's artificial skin in the mirror, trying to understand how those aesthetics became a global obsession. Dripping with confidence, he's forced to admit his new alt account actually looks incredibly drippy, ruining his mirror selfie moment. Tia bursts in accusing the boss of being an egomaniac, and he claps back, telling his apprentice to knock first. Ignoring the warning, the mod insists the knight needs to keep that tragic backstory sad boy face to keep the fanbase hooked. The kid groans at the micromanaging and asks why the apprentice is trying to force this cringe, over-dramatic acting right now. Staring at the boss while glowing with a red aura, the girl obsessively lists off the character's traits, making the CEO actually scared of her hyper-fixation. The writer demands he memorize the exact dialogue tree, declaring the warrior can never drop his sad boy aura if they want the strat to work. Sighing at his minions' absolute tryhard energy, Jinwoo pivots the topic, asking about a high-level zone where the players can grind XP. Seeing the elf hesitate, the MC realizes he's gonna have to ping an old rival to bypass this map limitation. Skipping the filler, the warrior steps confidently into the fast travel portal overflowing with dark, edgy energy. Crossing the loading screen, he spawns into a ruined wasteland, with aggressive red lightning slicing through a sky corrupted by destruction. The map's oppressive red lighting comes from a massive, creepy moon that feels like it's staring down at the dead zone. Flexing his true power level, the boss stumps the edge of the map, leaking raw energy to push back the zone's toxic poison damage. Scanning the ruined map, the MC mutters in pure disgust that this nightmare zone always gives him the creeps. Salty about the terrible spawn point, the boss summons a floating black weapon and demands the server admin come out and greet him. Looking down on the zone, he grips the magic blade tight, announcing he's going to cause some massive AoE damage to get the host's attention. In a destructive flex, the Archmage smashes the ground mercilessly, triggering a massive blue fire explosion that totally wipes the immediate area. Thanks to the massive nuke lighting up the dark zone, the Supreme Mage successfully pulls the zone boss's aggro. Next, a giant purple rift tears through the skybox, dropping a terrifying monster entity. A nightmare voice echoes from the void, warning the human that he didn't need to grief the map just to say hello. The erosion boss spawns in with his beastly skin, asking if his rival finally logged back in to hand over his save file. Trolling him, the monster reminds the Archmage that all of Arsalan's old priests and paladins are already his brain-dead NPC slaves. Not losing his cool, Jinwoo agrees, admitting that's exactly why he got tired of trying to solo the server and eventually took an L in that endless grind. The Dark Force tells him to just accept a game over, doubting the magic firewall will keep him alive much longer. Faced with the threat, the MC just reacts like the whole cutscene is an absolute joke. Triggered by the kid's reaction, the monster demands to know what's so funny. Right then, the Magic CEO points a finger directly at the boss's face, saying it's hilarious that the Dark Lord is basically soft, locked in his own spawn zone. The monster loses his mind over the disrespect and asks if the kid fast traveled all the way here just to trash talk. Ignoring the boss's rage, the Magic Master says now, claiming he doesn't have the playtime for that, and starts scanning the map for something. Hyped, he locks his camera onto a distant base and confirms he finally found the loot he was looking for. His main target is a mob spawner packed with corrupted creatures whose only job is to grief the server. Dropping a creepy laugh, the Dark Lord warns that trying to wipe those mobs is useless, since their respawn rate is cracked. Gripping his magic staff tight, the MC agrees it would be a massive headache if he tried to clear it solo. Moving fast, he slams the weapon into the floor, triggering a massive blue magic circle under his feet. Instantly, giant electric pillars nuke the sky, locking onto the entire enemy base at once. Not even looking tired, the Archmage literally just snaps his fingers to finish casting the spell. Using spatial hacks, he completely teleports all the local mobs in a fraction of a second. The magic light scoops up the monsters and yeets them completely outside the boss's aggro range. Absolutely mind blown by the hack, the evil entity demands to know what kind of glitchy spell that was. Waving casually, Jinwoo yells that he's just borrowing some mobs for an event, and tells the Dark Lord to buff his spawn rates later. Milking the monster's confusion, the kid congratulates him on securing the mid-boss role, and tells him to practice his mechanics for the big raid. The magic leader turns around to log out, but randomly stops when he remembers a tiny detail. Clenching his fist, he argues that since he borrowed the mobs, it's only fair he drops some compensation. The shadow boss waits silently, trying to read what this toxic kid is about to do. Turning his face with a troll smirk, the MC literally flips the bird at the monster and tells him to keep the change. The creature goes into an absolute meltdown over the disrespect and spams curses at the magic master with insane rage. While the kid clips out through a portal, the monster drops an ear-piercing roar, swearing to ban him in their next 1v1. Far away from that toxic lobby, chill vibes dominate the peaceful woods of the tutorial zones. A party of noobs is camping the quest marker, and the tanky guy celebrates that they finally got a real combat mission. Checking the UI tracker, his duo warns that the mobs could spawn in at any second. Suddenly, a dark purple aura corrupts the grass, putting the gamers on high alert. Super freaked out by the sudden weather change, the streamer Yahello asks why the graphics suddenly got so dark. A giant ugly foot stomps the forest floor, completely destroying the chill aesthetic. A squad of purple nightmare fuel goblins spawns in, boxing the party of noobs in. The squad panics when they see the massive hitboxes of the monsters, realizing instantly these are high-tier mobs. With absolute murder in its eyes, one of the creatures drops a massive roar to inflict the fear debuff on the party. Trying not to break character, the buff soldier pulls his sword, claiming the mobs are just trash-tier minions they can speedrun. But the monster rushes the tank with completely broken, unreactable speed. The warrior's eyes pop out, literally unable to track the enemy's insane frame data. Completely open, he eats a devastating heavy attack that launches him across the map. The entire squad freezes, watching their tank get one-tapped. Raging at the troll mechanics, the red-haired mage trash talks the mobs and casts a massive fireball. The fire explodes with max DPS, dropping a huge heat wave across the combat zone. Overflowing with confidence in his build, the mage smirks and asks if the mob got deleted. The smoke clears, showing the monster tanked the magic nuke with 0 HP lost. Punishing the whiff, the evil creature hits the guy with a brutal combo, finishing the fight instantly. The gamer girl backs up in pure terror, realizing her whole party just got squad wiped in seconds. Cornered by the mobs, she realizes the enemy's power level is way too high and her game over is guaranteed. The dark creatures rush the elf with 0 mercy to drop the final hit. In absolute panic, the noob shuts her eyes and screams, waiting for the heavy damage to connect. Right then, a sharp sound effect slices the air so fast it doesn't even render. A flawless golden light beam clips through the zone, completely parrying the monster's attack. The burst of holy energy gives the evil beasts massive knockback and cleanses the map instantly. Lying on the ground, the girl opens her eyes wide, still buffering, and sees a hooded player standing right in front of her. Prince Leon turns his face with a polite smile and greets the gamer, saying their server paths crossed again. Radiating ridiculous K-pop riz, the warrior gently asks if she took any damage in the gank. To render this flawless cutscene, the writer farmed the absolute highest tier magic materials available. The CEO's custom skin was modeled pixel by pixel, proving it's a god tier asset with 0 glitches. Pure, high-level magic flows through the knight's arms, flexing his insane base stats. Frozen, the gamer stares at the glowing hero, literally unable to look away from his perfect graphics. The Lord's hidden UI is managing multiple spells at once, tweaking the lighting and even the smell of the forest just to riz the girl up. Yahello falls completely in love with the digital character's insane aesthetics, looking like she's stunned, locked in the middle of the woods. Seeing Twitch chat going feral over the ship and dropping massive donos, The redhead shakes her head, trying to regain control of her keyboard. Noticing the noob buffering, the prince steps closer, playing the perfect support role to check her HP. Stuttering nervously, the girl insists her HP is fine, but the hero holds out a friendly hand, saying he's gonna cast a heal just to be safe. A cozy, warm glowing effect wraps around the gamer's character model, leaving the noob totally shook. Blushing hard, the elf admits she didn't lose any HP, but notices her stamina bar got fully restored by his crazy buff. The dono alerts start blowing up her UI, dropping a loud hype train over the flirtation between the two. Ignoring the raid mechanics, the redhead spams cute emotes and winks to thank her viewers for the sub-gifts. Controlling the NPC from his gaming chair, the CEO is shook watching this sudden burst of absolute cringe. The boss stares at the noob with a mix of pity and confusion, guessing her AI finally broke. Acting worried, the hero asks if she took critical head damage and offers to heal her brain, making the girl loudly reject the offer in a panic. Her stream overlay suddenly flashes, demanding she do her classic, cringy cute dance right now. Watching the massive payout roll in to force her to do the task, the warrior watches the scene, extremely confused. Staying quiet, Jinwoo decides to exploit the moment and slightly troll the girl to see what happens. Hacking the platform's UI, he inflates the bounty to 5 million, leaving the girl absolutely flabbergasted. Carried by the insane Dono pool, the gamer raises her shaking arms to start the embarrassing emote. Gathering her courage, she starts bunny hopping, delivering that absolute cringe performance directly to the prince. Keeping up the cute act, the redhead happily announces that the bunny just spawned in specifically for the lord. But the cringe hits critical mass instantly, and she hides her face, turning around, completely defeated by the sheer weight of the donos. Ignoring the awkwardness, the warrior suggests they hit a safe zone and offers the mental health potion one more time. The weird interaction makes the stream hit peak concurrent viewers, cementing the clip as the ultimate highlight of the season. A bit later, the duo pushes through the chill forest together, while the influencer aggressively inspects the knight's character model. Just watching the guy's smooth walking animation is enough to make the girl completely simp. Hitting the brakes, the prince turns his face in the soft lighting and warns the girl to watch her hitbox. The gamer's heart rate spikes instantly, and she thanks him for the carry like an absolute fangirl. Getting serious, the warrior promises that the debuffed monsters don't have the aggro range to chase them this far. Super polite, the guy claims he's just a solo player roaming the map, while the noob praises him for the massive save. Putting on a deep, brooding face, the guy monologues that he wanders the server trying to figure out the toxic energy wiping the magic universe. The gamer instantly puts 2 and 2 together, realizing that edgy force is why the mobs got that terrifying purple recolor. Staying quiet, the tower boss monitors the analytics through his shiny K-pop avatar. Checking the girl's top-tier social stats, the admin realizes she's destined to be the guild master of the whole player base. Stretching his arms out dramatically, the warrior begs the player to help him raid the dark boss. A massive main quest alert pops up on the girl's HUD, promising that her relationship meter with the NPC will level up as a reward. Super hyped about the romance unlock, the girl realizes she'll have to build a massive raid party. Looking around the green zone, she notices the other noobs are just grinding for loot and exploring the sandbox. Clenching her fist, the redhead ignores the massive grind, swearing to herself she'll clear the quest just for her K-pop crush. Letting the hype take over, she steps up and grabs the hero's arms super tight. Blushing like crazy, the noob screams at the top of her lungs that she'll risk her own save file to clear his quest. Happy he successfully pawned off the quest, the warrior dips fast, promising he'll drop tactical support buffs from the shadows. Keeping his word, the knight starts randomly dropping in to carry the low-level players during their sweaty forest grinds. The blonde guy even helps the explorers farm rare crafting mats, making the whole server absolutely obsessed with his skills and vibe. Handing out a bag full of premium HP pots, the fighter donates the loot, claiming it's just a small GG to the community. The noob player base is mind blown by the insane giveaway, warning him that dropping his inventory will leave him vulnerable. Flashing a friendly smile, the boss calms the chat down, saying the real server carry is actually them. Instantly, the game's subreddits get flooded with wholesome posts about the mysterious K-pop knight's god-tier behavior. Motivated by the NPC's pure chat energy, one user posts that he finally got the guts to leave his room after years of being a shut-in. The guy admits he hugged his mom crying, feeling massive regret for making her tank the emotional damage of his AFK lifestyle. Determined to fix his IRL stats, the gamer vows to find a job and help future noobs with the exact same good guy energy as the knight. On Earth, Jinwoo reads the patch notes and smiles, seeing his wholesome manipulation strat is dropping massive bues. Speed, walking up the corporate stairs, the CEO figures the player guild will form super fast and decides to hit the fast forward button on the plot. Back in the magic realm, the Lord's intimidating avatar walks down his fortress steps to launch the next phase of the raid. The kid puts on an ice-cold face, fully focused on making sure the enemy mobs drop absolutely brutal difficulty spikes on the humans. With a slight magic hack, the massive doors slide open, revealing the server's main command center. The room glows with neon energy coming from a bunch of magic circles spinning and humming in the center. Chilling nearby, the head elf bows to her boss, confirming the engine is running at a stable 60 FPS. The magic UI floats in the air, while the hero checks out the flawless connection, the fortress, built to work as an admin console. Feeling the server bandwidth humming in the machine, the kid says he can feel the rival boss's power even from across the map. Doing the K-pop math, the Lord figures that constantly spawning elite mobs will force the players to team up fast. Skipping the intro, the kid orders his mod to summon all the high-level admins to the room immediately. A dark, trollish smile starts creeping onto the kid's face as he realizes how big brain his strat is. Dripping with evil intent, the CEO announces that his dev team is finally going to roleplay as the villains. Answering the ping, the skeleton mob and the other creepy devs group up, looking super smug to execute the boss's orders. Feeling a little creeped out by his minions invading his personal space, the kid takes a step back and tells them to chill. Trying to stick to the roadmap, Jinwoo asks if they drop the coordinates to the group, but gets interrupted by his writer bursting in. Completely tilted and having a mental breakdown, the girl kicks the door open screaming hysterically with dead eyes. Jump scared by the noise, the Lord flames his minion for almost giving him a heart attack with that random aggro. Slumping into the VIP gaming chair, the girl looks like her HP is at 0, making the CEO ask what kind of crazy bug just happened. The elf's face is screaming pure gamer fatigue, a direct result of the sweaty shift she just pulled at the noob hub. Completely losing it, the writer complains that the casuals spend all their playtime spamming useless emotes just to farm trash achievements. Crying tears of pure tilt, the writer says the trolls literally take fall damage in front of her just for the memes, while the boss tries to calm her down. Laughing nervously, the CEO begs the apprentice to stop wasting premium mana crystals on these trolls and tells her to catch her breath. Continuing the dev stand up, the boss turns to the two boomer monks to check how their day one launch went. Super salty, the bearded old man complains that the human players constantly stare at him like he's super sus, for literally zero reason. The priest sadly recalls that the players were whispering in voice chat, theory crafting that he was the secret raid boss of the zone. Complaining bitterly, his duo partner claims he caught the same stray hate, getting labeled as a cult leader. A depressing vibe fills the command room while the devs sigh, exhausted from dealing with the absolute brain rot of the player base. Asked why she hid the guide, the elf leader laughs, claiming she just wanted to see them panic, making everyone think she's a total weirdo. To fix the tilt instantly, Jinwoo pulls out a modern game controller from his inventory and tosses it to the squad. Completely clueless about tech, the girl stares at the controller and is told it's the hardware to pilot the low-level mobs. Furious, Tia cries and refuses to play as a gross monster, but the kid argues it's mandatory to grief the humans so they form an army faster. Wearing his villain face, the boss decrees that since the players have unlimited respawns, the dev team is not allowed to hold back on the DPS. Getting into character instantly, the skeleton baron drops an evil laugh promising to farm the players, making the kids sweat a bit about the incoming toxicity. Ignoring the bone guy's hype, the boss focuses on teaching the elf how to use the weird joysticks on the controller. Super chill, he points out the Westy movement, promising the background engine will handle the hard mechanics to make the controls butter smooth. Booting up a floating HUD, the Archmage opens the test lobby and hands the controller over so the girl can test the build. Sweating from the pressure, the employee grips the controller tight and asks if her gamer posture is right. Pushing the thumbsticks, the writer makes the tiny monster model walk around the virtual map. Obsessed with the gadget, the apprentice praises the mechanics, while the CEO hypes her up to grief the targets as much as possible. On the side, the two boomer monks admit they've always wanted to troll some noobs like this. Riding the wave, the skeleton boss brags about his 200 IQ tactics until the CEO tells the squad to drop into the live server. The boomer dev makes his monster spam backflips, having the time of his life with his new gaming setup. Looking at the disgusting monster render on the monitor, the Archmage notes that the player base also absolutely hates the mob's design. Locked in on the macro strat, the boss uses his admin tools to check the analytics popping up on the UI. The whole dev squad bursts out laughing while they troll the lobby, making for an absolute 10/10 screenshot of the moment. On his smartphone screen, the photo gets saved to his camera roll, proving the Magic devs were actually having a blast. Back on Earth, the kid looks at the pic on his phone, genuinely laughing at how goofy the whole setup is. The creator calculates that wiping these starter mobs will officially trigger the first major story beat of the Arslan campaign. Chilling in luxury at the dynasty's massive dining table, the hero keeps scrolling his notifications. But suddenly, the billionaire drops his silverware on the fine china when a critical alert pops up on the dashboard. Reacting super fast, the kid jumps out of his chair, jump-scaring the patriarch and the rest of the family in the room. The grandpa notices the hare's panic and quickly tries to find out what triggered the sudden jump scare. Stressed out, the old man stands up fast, turning the chilled dinner into pure anxiety. The hare stares at the holographic UI, completely mind blown by the data that just dropped. Back in the Magic server, a bunch of adventurers group up, screaming for LFG to build a raid party. Pure Salt takes over the main plaza, where triggered fighters swear revenge on the goblins that looted their drops. Spawning in with his admin account, the CEO materializes in the zone, completely shocked by the massive size of the mob gathering. The boss literally loses the plot, unable to process how the meta shifted this hard in such a short time. In the combat zone, a corrupted mob rushes in aggressively, spinning a wooden club. The noob player blocks the heavy attack with his shield, screaming for his support players to drop some heals ASAP. A massive fire owl nukes the monster, leaving the gamers shook by the beast's insane tank stats. But the evil mob eye frames through the fire with broken movement speed, totally outplaying the humans' combo. Piloting the mob with her controller, the apprentice drops a toxic laugh while trolling the panicking heroes. The writer and the monk duo fist bump, celebrating the insane team synergy they built during the gank. Thirsty to spread more chaos, the employee locks onto the monitor, determined to keep the spawn camping going. Meanwhile, the human squad wipes on the floor, completely out of stamina and unable to keep mashing buttons. Spectating from afar, the CEO realizes his dev team is basically griefing the player base just for the memes. Facepalming hard, Jinwoo cringes at how childish his admins are acting. Tapping the writer's shoulder, he lets her know that her mob stats just leveled up. The screen shows the troll mob hit level 10, unlocking a rare title for spawn, trapping the noobs repeatedly. Radiating a terrifying aura, the ugly monster equips a red headband after wiping a massive chunk of the player lobby. Seeing the absolute bloodbath, the commander decides to pull the plug, but the girl insists it's finally time to drop her ultimate attack. Inside the simulation, the beast's gross, bare foot intentionally hovers right over a downed player's face. The monster starts spamming the crouch button super fast, intentionally teabagging the defeated gamer to disrespect his honor. The sole purpose of this toxic BM's bad manners dance is to inflict maximum emotional damage on the target. Watching the super toxic BM, the other noobs rage hard in voice chat over the absolute audacity of the mob. Completely corrupted by online gaming toxicity, the girl drops unhinged laughs, openly trolling the wiped humans. The Magic CEO is shook by his apprentice's toxic behavior, wondering what dark corner of the internet she learned that from. Even with the drama, he admits the public teabagging worked perfectly to fuel the troops' rage and determination. The strat works flawlessly, and soon after, a massive guild of players marches in formation out of the safe zone. Thanks to the Magic Deva's premium trolling, the raid party grouped up way faster than the original roadmap predicted. Logging back into his night alt, the kid flashes a confident smile and announces the official raid is starting. The gorgeous K-pop soldier struts through the map, stealing everyone's camera focus with his premium skin. Flexing his flawless graphics, he invites the army to join the massive server-wide event in the green zone. Nearby, a giant tank player named Urugum is visibly sweating with stress. The user begs the blacksmith to upgrade his shield right before the raid, looking like he's having a panic attack. Super confident in his crafting RNG, the dwarf NPC grips his massive hammer to run the upgrade script. The heavy smash hits the shield, sending flashy particle effects all over the forge. A glowing magic circle pops up, proving the engine is processing the upgrade roll. Suddenly, the RNG fails brutally, causing a small explosion on the player's metal gear. Fake apologizing, the NPC says, "My bad" for the bad roll, while the UI confirms the shield stats actually downgraded. The big guy completely loses his mind and starts crying in agony, seeing all his grinding vanish into thin air. The redhead girl walks up to the shop, and the tank suddenly cries, begging for sympathy over his massive L. The elf lectures him, saying he's totally addicted to the gacha rush of high-risk upgrade rolls. Coping hard, the player argues the drop rates are trash, so he's forced to keep spamming the upgrade button. Dropping a toxic smirk, the NPC roasts the human, saying he doesn't have the guts to play a real tank class. Triggered by the trash talk, the warrior drops his gear on the anvil for one last enroll, making the redhead panic. The heavy clanking of the prince's armor echoes down the street, pulling the girl's aggro inside the shop. Overflowing with rids, the flawless hero greets the noob with max politeness. The girl immediately asks why he's there, and the K-pop boy says he was just checking the raid group's loadouts. His chill facial animations give off pure innocent vibes, making the gamer melt all over again. Jump scared by the warrior's glowing aura, the giant human realizes the main character NPC just walked into the room. Losing all his dignity, the user grabs the glowing guy's cape, begging pathetically for his RNG blessing. The girl complains her duo partner officially lost his mind, turning into a total gacha addict thanks to the game's brutal RNG. Trying to be a bro, the lord agrees to help, and the giant player physically moves him next to the anvil like a lucky charm. Super confident in his weird meta strat, the player tells the blacksmith to run the upgrade script one more time. The boss stays totally quiet watching this unhinged behavior, not really understanding his role as a human rabbit's foot. Dumping his max stamina into the animation, the minion roars and brings the massive hammer down on the item. The crafting tool hits the metal with an ear-piercing sound effect that literally shakes the building's collision mesh. A violent pillar of golden light shoots out of the anvil, blinding the squad grouped up inside. The floating UI pops up in epic fashion, confirming the gear just hit the legendary +5 upgrade tier. The beefy tank throws his hands up in pure hype, crying tears of joy for rolling the highest defense stat in the server. The giant user shows his gratitude by hugging the blonde prince, swearing the god tier roll was all thanks to his buff, while the prince humbly rejects the carry. Milking the W, the guy flexes his new legendary drop in Habiel's face, making the girl turn bright red with salt. At that exact second, the stream's Dono goal triggers a massive bounty, demanding the streamer hit max upgrade tier on her own weapon. Completely enslaved by the payout, the girl pulls the hero's clothes, hysterically begging him to touch her weapon, which he does to spread the good RNG. Buffed by the knight's presence, the redhead tells Thompson to do his thing, and the NPC unloads his hammer's max DPS on the counter. A yellow aura confirms the god tier weapon upgrade, making the streamer scream with hype, while chat absolutely loses its mind over the blonde's RNG blessing. Overwhelmed by the dopamine hit, the gamer cries tears of joy and literally screams her love for the handsome soldier, making the kid cringe at the massive scene. Seeing the back-to-back views, an army of players rushes in like zombies, cornering the NPC and begging him to bless their loadouts too. Having infinite patience, Leon says it's no problem to help the lobby out, pulling amazed reactions from a guy spectating from a distance. Even though he kept his chill K-pop face, Jinwoo's IRL brain was secretly begging for mercy, completely burnt out from dealing with this loud mob. Sweating at 60 FPS, the dwarf keeps spamming the hammer animation non-stop, resulting in a crazy streak of successful upgrade rolls for the guild. After grinding that insanely fast queue, the poor dwarf runs completely out of stamina, collapsing on the floor like a dusty prop. Looking at the final stats, Jinwoo realizes the upgrade rates never depended on him, but on the blacksmith's actual cracked coding, while the whole town threw a party. Suddenly, a bard player aggressively strumming a lyre walks up to the duo to hype up their epic pulls at the shop. Playing the role of a hardcore role player, the noob drops a custom track just to celebrate the duo's massive W at the forge. Ignoring the hero's reactions, the guy starts screaming lyrics about the glowing weapon, making the lord cover his ears in shock. Trolling the terrible performance, one of his party members jokes that the awful noise would be the perfect ow to scare the mobs away from the raid. The redhead complains loudly that her elf ears pick up every sound in HD, which makes Leon realize there's something super weird about the bard. Looking at the guy totally lost in his music emote, the CEO notices the guy's aura color looks insanely familiar. An IRL flashback hits the CEO, making him realize the weirdo bard is actually his old employee who got laid off. Checking the stats of a guy trying to become a virtual rock star, the boss takes a deep breath, cringing out of his mind at his former minion's current state. Worried about the blonde's sudden silence, Habiel asks if he caught a debuff, but he covers his panic saying everything is fine. Pivoting hard, the hero announces he'll lead the front line and orders the mob to march, but stops when he spots two high-level players in the village. The girl in heavy armor gives off major boss energy, while the dark, bearded fighter agrees they should be the ones calling the shots. The veteran player flexes his guild master title with a creepy smile, swearing to drop heavy DPS on any mobs in his way. Instantly, the rival guild leader claps back with a toxic face, challenging the edgelord to a 1v1 right there in the lobby. Pausing the drama before someone catches a ban, the young prince begs the chads to wait, reminding them the main raid event is about to start. As he scans the angry duo up close, the archmage is paralyzed with shock, realizing these two VIP players also share a massive connection with him IRL. The faces of his boomer grandpa and his older sister pop into his head, confirming his own family logged in and was sweating in the magic server. Sweating buckets at the reveal, the CEO panics, realizing the edgelord in black is his grandpa, while the hardcore barbarian is his bogey sister. The boss remembers how his sister usually flexed absolute class on Earth, serving premium food and treating him super nicely. Comparing that memory to the sweaty barbarian screaming for blood in VR, the kid is completely mind blown by her toxic gamer transformation. Investigating the crazy lobby, the Lord confirms both of his relatives are already hardcore no-lifing the game, creating and leading massive guilds. Since running a top-tier guild takes a ridiculous grind, the creator starts seriously doubting how they're managing the IRL family business. Interrupting the boss's panic attack, dozens of players fresh out of the loading screen spawn in the village and loudly ping the prince. A massive army groups up around the hero, cheering that they logged in just to answer his LFG post to wipe the dark corruption wiping the server. A weird noob holding a dagger thanks him for the carry, and the knight replies super politely that her DPS will be a massive help for the raid. Countless gamers rocking troll skins and meme usernames keep dropping into the zone, forming a hardcore army ready to push. Despite the absolutely cursed usernames floating above their heads, the squad is jeered to the teeth, proving they're actually here to sweat. Turning his K-pop rids back on, Leon swears in local chat that raiding with such chads will be the ultimate honor. The players go absolutely feral over the hype speech and raise their weapons, accepting the guy into their party with a massive war cry. Loving how perfectly he manipulated the lobby, the blonde drops a massive smirk and gives the official green light for the raid to push. Bathed in the skybox lighting, the massive player army crosses the city gates, flexing heavy stamina and totally confident they're gonna steamroll the mobs. At the front of the pack, the CEO's older sister points her sword, telling her guild to lock in and focus the objective. On the other flank, the boomer grandpa raises his battle EX, ordering his squad to enjoy the epic PvP event about to drop. Playing the role of the ultimate raid leader, the blonde kid's heavy boots hit the dirt, setting the walking pace for the whole server. The massive coalition of tryhard gamers marches toward the forest radiating pure confidence, following the Lord's blue cape without a second thought. The map graphics slowly transition into a rocky, bottleneck zone, showing the raid is officially leaving the safe zones. Blown away by the massive render distance, the Shield player praises the game's engine, dropping hyped comments about the god-tier map design. Trying to vibe with the epic journey, one party member pulls out a flask of pixelated grape juice to toast the realistic graphics of the trail. The amateur bard starts furiously writing in chat, claiming the hardcore zone is perfect for edgy lore songs, while the tank begs for him to mute his mic. The CEO watches his team troll each other with a chill face, knowing that letting them goof around is key, because forcing them to play full tryhard would kill the game. He predicts that the next wave of players will naturally level up their skills on their own, but his theory crafting gets interrupted by an incoming DM. Through private voice chat, the coordinator excitedly reports they need to massively buff the weather debuffs to balance out the giant army that just spawned. She confirms the dev team is sitting at their admin consoles, fully ready to spawn the boss mobs. Happy with his dev team setup, the Lord drops some W team praises and warns that the sweaty team fight is about to start in a second. Right there, the leaves change to a creepy cyan color, confirming the OE ambush script just triggered. A massive, hidden fog starts clouding the rocky path, grabbing the attention of the players trying to figure out the new weather mechanics. The squad complains about the sudden blind debuff, and the veteran devs are hyped, assuming the creator went all out on the particle effects. Playing his role perfectly, Leon stops instantly and acts terrified, announcing the Holy Shield is taking heavy damage from the erosion. A creepy, glitchy shadow clips through the smoke, and the Lord warns the chat that a high-level magic boss just invaded their zone. Spamming command pings, the K-pop star tells the army to fall back immediately so the noobs don't get wiped in the first encounter. Ignoring the scripted danger, the fighter pulls his massive weapon from his inventory with a super clean, high frame rate animation. He blocks the boss's aggro, acting as a meat shield for the backline, screaming for them to dodge the massive AoE damage. A bunch of creepy monster arms spawn from the ground with broken speed, grabbing and yeeting tons of players in absolute chaos. The boomer grandpa and his guild completely lose the plot, stunned by the massive crowd. Control attack from the server engine. Trapped in the hitbox nightmare, the redhead girl's eyes dilate as a massive wave of dark mobs rushes her, trying to end her playthrough. The toxic wave hits the ground like a massive physics glitch, ready to delete the players stuck in the Badlands. Suddenly an epic, glowing pillar nukes the center of the group, pushing back the beastly gank with massive energy, saving the noobs from a server wipe. Holding his glowing sword, the fearless Leon burns through his mana bar to cast a massive shield for the entire player base in the zone. The bright flash cracks the floor with blue fire, melting the evil mobs and cleansing the toxic debuff instantly. Gasping for breath, the CEO asks if the party survived the wipe, and the streamer praises the carry until a horror game alarm shatters the peace. Sweating bullets, the elite warrior points at the sky in pure panic, screaming that the server weather just turned apocalyptic. Tearing through the dark skybox, a massive, cursed sphere spawns in, draining the local magic to render a terrifying visual. The paralyzed army watches a literal dark star spawn, flooding the grass with pure horror and max-level stress debuffs. Heavy boss music drums start bumping through the creepy atmosphere. A bunch of zombie mobs spawn on top of the ruins, dropping terrifying roars to scare the players. Under that dark, cursed skybox, the enemy troop speed walk toward the human squad with zero chill. Freaking out, Habiel checks the player count, realizing they're outmanned, and tells her party they're soft-locked. Keeping his cool, Leon checks the map and confirms this is a perfectly coded gank. The hero explains the mobs must have sniped their coordinates to set up the ambush, guessing there's a mole in the village. Right then, a literal hurricane of dark magic crashes into the PvP zone. Piloting the boss mob with her controller, Tia spams a massive ultimate attack, completely breaking the noob's guard. The Explorer Guild hits absolute panic mode seeing the broken DPS of the enemy squad. Holding a teleport crystal, the leader admits he threw by bringing the low levels into this high-tier zone too early. Ready to fix the misplay, the kid holds out his glowing hand and announces he's fast, traveling the team back to the safe zone. Instantly, a bunch of cyan magic circles spawn right under the confused player's boots. The UI flashes a dramatic cinematic prompt showing the mage sacrificing himself so the team can extract, leaving the noobs shook. Watching the spell charge, the redhead guild leader screams, asking what's going to happen to the blonde guy if he stays behind to solo the boss. But the admin just turns his face looking super depressed, dropping the classic sad boy look of a guy accepting his game over. The streamer's eyes pop out as she realizes her digital crush is about to get banned for them. Refusing to take the portal, Habiel cancels the spell animation screaming, locking in to stay and fight with him until they both wipe. Hyped by the elf's Kikabu energy, the rich commander raises her sword, stating her guild never rage quits. The boomer grandpa steps up, triggering his enrage buff and swearing he's gonna turn the mobs into stew for dinner. Keeping the roleplay alive, the bard shreds his guitar, dropping premium background music for the epic fantasy brawl. The Lord warns the squad that this raid boss is gonna be way harder than their normal daily quests. Flexing pure chat energy, the noob screams without hesitation that the squad has the stats to clear the dungeon. Grateful for the players locking in, the blonde grips his sword, swearing to spam his attacks until his stamina bar is at 0. Pointing his glowing sword at the sky, he pops a massive golden AoE buff that covers the whole raid party. The players instantly feel the buff spike their stats, totally mind blown by the broken scaling of his support spell. Taking the absolute front line, Leon points his blade straight into the monster spawn zone. Dropping a massive battle cry for the server, the commander orders the squad to key straight into the enemy defenses. The hardcore team fight officially starts the exact second the two sides clash in the middle of the cursed map. Camping in the admin room, the skeleton dev complains that their sweaty setup would have been wasted if the humans actually extracted. Clapping back, the monk on the controller says the escape portal was just bait, since soft locking them builds up the lore perfectly. The apprentice swears she would have dropped the player base if they actually ran away, but admits the CEO's prediction was a massive W. Watching the epic push on her monitor, she notes that these gamers gladly accepted the server's hardcore PvP. Getting emotional over the noob's guts, the dev decides they need to execute their boss mechanics flawlessly. Smashing the buttons on her console, the High Elf commands the dev team to go full tryhard, creating a brutal skill check for the explorers. Leading the front line, the giant tank orders his shield wall to push up and block the dark aggro. Urugum pops his aggro pull skill, eating all the heavy damage to carry his team through the mob rotation. Laughing at the massive damage numbers, the big guy flexes that his premium armor is completely broken. Backed by the tank's flex, his duo partners raise their shields to try and block the demon wave. The toxic mob starts spamming heavy attacks against the iron wall the allied squad just built. Tanking the insane stress, the guild leader screams at the top of his lungs to hold the line, no matter the HP cost. Finding a pixel-perfect opening, the dark boss charges a massive, screen-wiping nuke. The main boss lands a brutal smash right on the tank's shield, making the user slide back and lose half his HP. Using the gap, Habiel steps on her teammate's shoulders to double, jump high into the air. The guy looks up at the sky, totally shook by the crazy movement tech his duo just pulled off. Hanging in the air, the sniper elf pulls her bowstring to max tension, locking her aim, bot onto the boss mob. Screaming a hype line, the girl unloads a massive laser beam right into the enemy backline. The light arrow hits the ground, triggering an insane AoE explosion that totally deletes the enemy front line. A bunch of purple minions get yeeted into the skybox by the broken physics of the blast. Stealing the combo opportunity, Leon hits a slide attack, shooting a massive wave of holy damage. The holy hack clears the map, wiping tons of dark mobs in a single frame. Standing under his epic guild banner with his glowing sword, the prince refreshes his vow to carry the lobby forever. Hyped up by the leader's DPS, the rich sister tells her barbarian guild to join the wipe. The sweaty squad charges in screaming like maniacs to clean up the trash mobs left by the boss. Gripping her dual-wield weapons, the rich lady triggers her jump attack to maximize the damage output. Spamming heavy combos, she shatters the enemy's super armor, flexing some seriously scary movement speed. An ignored mob tries to third-party her, rushing in to backstab the aggressive flanker. But the guild leader cancels her animation, dodges the gank, and bashes its face in, ending its run. Addicted to the combat loop, she keeps rolling through the mobs, deleting everything that steps into her hitbox. Showing off her barbarian teeth, the user pushes straight into the next wave with zero fear debuff. Dropping massive critical hits, she destroys the mobs using the handle of her weapon in a super toxic flex. Away from the main fight, the grandpa slices through the dark goblins, showing off the high agility his VR skin gave him. The boomer and the sister group up to dual tank, praising the sweaty PvP skills their guildies are showing off. Swallowing his fear, a protected noob orders the ranged DPS to get ready to fire. The backline charges up their spells and arrows, waiting for the raid leader to call the target for the massive burst. Reading chat roasting her missed shots, the girl rages and tells her viewers to shut up and watch. The mages drop fire ows and wind blades, creating an apocalyptic spam of magic effects. The magic spam completely melts the enemy squad, muting a huge chunk of the dark army stuck in the choke point. Even though they're winning the trade, the mages realize their mana bars are hitting zero, because the zombie spawn rate is way too high. Seeing his team's stamina hitting the red, the bard realizes it's his time to shine, and starts playing his support buffs. Plucking his magic guitar like a pro, the bard drops his ultimate skill, singing an unbreakable battle anthem. The weird beat echoes across the map, making the nearby players turn their cameras in confusion. Blue and red buffs shoot out of the guitar strings, restoring the HP and mana bars of the entire raid party. Enjoying the buffs, the team feels their stats spike, while the bard milks his 5 seconds of fame. With their stamina refilled by the heal music, the hyped squad spams their combos again, pushing back the corrupted troops. Pulling her bowstring again, Habiel checks the UI and confirms her team is slowly but surely winning the event. Urugum holds his shield up, hard coping that his build can sustain any crazy mob count the game throws at them. Suddenly, a massive, aggressive shockwave slices the wind, crashing right in front of the team with game-breaking damage. Urugum and his duo partner backpedal in pure terror, trying to track the new boss that just dropped spawned from the sky. The supreme boss mob stands up from the crater, holding heavy weapons and glaring at the human noobs. Using broken movement tech, it hits the floor, sending out a massive shockwave of pure nightmare damage. A magic explosion triggers around the boss, launching the human gamers and the dead zombie models across the map. A creepy glowing light starts buffing the dead mob bodies lying on the ground. The Earth players completely freak out when they realize the dead mobs are dodging the permadeath and respawning right in front of them. Cornered and out of options, the shield leader looks at the mess and cries, seeing their win condition drop to 0. The mobs charge in with zero chill, wiping out huge chunks of the allied raid party in the pain zone. Right there, the blonde VIP steps up fearlessly, claiming aggro as the main rival of the purple nightmare boss. The dark boss roars, accepting the 1v1 duel triggered by the prince. The duo starts trading heavy blows, locking into an epic fighting game sequence of pure massive damage. Punishing a whiff, Leon lands a spectacular golden combo, knocking the boss way out of the center ring. Stun locked, the rotting mass drops to 0 HP and falls apart into 2 dead pieces. The hunter squad stops sweating and claps, celebrating the paladin completely styling on the dark commander. But suddenly, a purple storm rips through the map with broken speed. The magic completely fills the broken pieces of the boss mob that just got sliced. The crater glows with a toxic purple light, and the boss respawns right in front of the players' shocked faces. The glitchy boss renders back in with 0 damage on its health bar, completely ignoring the previous fatal combo. A soldier screams at the top of his lungs, warning that Phase 2 of the Nightmare boss fight just started. Leon and Habiol are completely stun-locked, trying to process the absolute BS of the boss's auto-revive mechanic. The paladin pings a dirty obelisk way in the back, guessing that pillar is the spawner giving the mobs infinite respawns. The streamer asks for a strat, and the warrior points out a weak spot in the pillar's hitbox they can exploit. Locked in, the gamer girl rallies the squad to focus all their DPS on destroying the demon spawner. The kid replies with pure K-pop sweetness to the redhead's sweaty gamer determination. Grateful, the boy praises her hype and calls the massive guild to group up and push the objective together. The toxic swarm rushes in, dropping massive AoE attacks to body, block the human players. Chanting a massive spell, the prince charges his sword with top-tier cosmic energy. Leon shoots out massive lasers of light, deleting mobs from the map with a single click. The golden laser carves a clear path right through the shadow swarm, connecting directly to the corrupted target. Surfing the newly opened lane, the sniper girls and the rest of the squad sprint down the cleared path. A rotting mob flies in, trying to block the streamer's speedrun. With god-tier reaction time, the soldier parries the heavy attack, tanking the damage so the girl doesn't get one shot. Bracing his boots against the knockback, the prince shows he's taking massive tick damage from the heavy clash. Burning his stamina reserves, he pushes the mob away and orders the squad to keep moving. Sweating hard, he drops to one knee, making Habiol scream in panic for her blonde carry. Sticking to his K-pop script, the guy orders them to keep rushing the objective and bans anyone from looking back. Urugum and his tank squad literally block the path, screaming at her W key straight ahead no matter what. Out of mana, the backline snipers decide to intentionally feed, planning to drag thousands of goblins down with them. The chain of magic explosions nukes the field, marking the epic final play of the Out of Stamina squad. Psychologically destroyed and crying her eyes out, the girl burns all her stamina sprinting toward the final quest objective. Clipping the edge of the enemy base, she drops into depression seeing the massive wave of mobs camping the bridge. The boomer grandpa and the older sister push past the girl, screaming at her to keep running and not to throw the run. Buffed by a flawless shield, the girl dumps all her green mana into her basic bow. The redhead spams solar-powered arrows, triggering tornado hitboxes that delete the shadow mobs in her line of sight. The speed-boosted squad rushes through the map, lighting up the zone as they push the glowing core. Riding the DPS high, the elf begs the 2 rich players to carry the final phase for the whole lobby. Instantly, the triggered mobs strike back hard, boxing them in from all sides to gank the player. Out of defensive cooldowns, the girl logs off the map, leaving only the boomer and the older sister as the last ones standing in the raid. The old man yells at the girl not to AFK, swearing that the dead heroes will absolutely get their revenge later. The barbarian agrees, bunny hopping with broken jump stats right over the toxic gas traps. The family duo crosses the map with flawless synergy, aiming to drop the final fatal blow on the bosses. Weaving through the heavy damage, they reach the red walls and dump massive physics-based heavy attacks with their weapons. The magic ruby fails the durability check, completely shattering its code under the heavy DPS pressure. The core explodes into tiny pixels, triggering massive celebratory emotes from the allied squads. But an ugly, cursed bone clips out of the glitchy dust, proving the boss fight isn't actually over yet. The two family members turn to stone, absolutely jaw-dropped at the new phase that just rendered in. Rocking the skin of an absolute demon, the decrepit skeleton boss announces he is the final raid boss for the foolish Earth players.